Good afternoon, guys. It's Working, bringing you a quick update on. Actually, we're going to be covering a few. Instead of going in detail on any one coin, I'm going to be covering Bitcoin, EOS, Ethereum, and Ripple very, very briefly. As I know a lot of you have been asking me a lot of questions here, and I apologize I haven't been updating you guys a lot recently. We got a lot going on in our family. In fact, if you hear some construction in the background, guys, we've got some remodeling that we're doing in the house. But anyway, we're looking at, we're going to start off with Bitcoin to the US dollar. This is the 4-hour chart on Bitfinex, guys. And let me just point out, first of all, zooming out here, we can see that the majority of the trading over the last month since early June has been right into this zone between 65.40 and 62.80. Price just seems to continue to return to that zone. It breaks out briefly, but then immediately returns. All the consolidation, look at the volume profile over here. But the vast majority of trading is all taking place within that zone. So once again, we have returned back to that zone here. Excuse me. We did, as I told you in the last update, guys, I told you to expect a larger move. A larger move was approaching. We saw it consolidating up here. We saw that the moving average is getting squeezed tighter and tighter, price getting squeezed tighter and tighter, telltale sign of a larger move to come. Sure enough, we saw that larger move. Price did break down. Now, I told you as we extended this ascending support line here of this prior wedge, I told you that if price does break below that wedge, there's a high probability we're going to retest the prior low of this order structure. Price did break down. It wicked down here to about 61.99 on Bitfinex, just below 6,200. Not quite down below into this order block here, so it didn't get quite that low, which was a rather bullish sign in my opinion. Price came down. It tested this order block here instead, sitting between about 62.29 and 62.80. This support here moved sideways, consolidated in that zone for about 20 hours or so. This 62.80 was acting as resistance, and then it finally just recently broke up. I find it interesting that price did break up, found resistance as this was a support line, this ascending support line back here, now is acting as a resistance. So I do expect if price, I think there's a very high probability that price is going to move sideways. We know today that CBOE futures contract expires, so oftentimes that can do some funny things to price. I think it's today anyway, either today or early tomorrow. I think it's today. But anyway, that can do some funny things to price oftentimes. But if price does break above this ascending, what was support is now acting as resistance. If it does break above that resistance, I do expect it to come up and test this prior order block right here. Excuse me, guys. I have this sinus thing going on. Anyway, to test this prior order block here, and what we need to get above is this 65.40. If price can break above 65.40, guys, that's going to be a very bullish indication. At that point, I think we're going to come up and test 67.50, and that 67.50 I do believe is going to act as a strong support, as I showed you, a resistance, excuse me, as I told you guys many times. That's the neckline of that inverse head and shoulders, acted as resistance many times in the past, so I do expect it to act as resistance again. If price can break above 67.50, at that point, we're going to be watching, as I showed you guys last time, this little order block right in here. Now that's relevant for two reasons. One, we can see that it's acted as support many times, which means it should act as resistance, but it also coincides perfectly with the 618 fib level. And as I told you guys last time, if we zoom back out here on the daily, I showed you on the last chart that the last three peaks at 10,000, at 8,500, and at 74.20 have all been, if you measured it out with your fib, it's all been sitting right there in the golden pocket, which is between the 618 fib and the 65 fib level. So if price can break above that on this latest rise, that would break that bearish trend, and that'd be a very bullish indication in my opinion. And we're nowhere near that yet, guys. Just telling you some things to keep an eye on. For now, I do think there's a very high probability that we're going to trade within this range. I'm trading between 62.80 and 65.40. I think that just history tells us that's a very high probability. Excuse me. If price does break below 62.80 again, guys, and tests this 6100, I do believe 6100 has to hold. If 6100 does break, we're coming down here to test the prior 2018 lows somewhere between 5850 and 5700, and it'll be very interesting if price ever does get down there, how it reacts. If we get a strong bounce, that's going to be obviously extremely bullish. If price just kind of meanders and moves sideways, that's going to be a very bearish indication, and more than likely we're going to come back down to new 2018 lows. But again, we're nowhere near there yet. For in the meantime, I expect consolidation sideways until those contracts expire, and once those contracts expire, I'm going to be watching this resistance at 65.40. A break above that could be a very bullish indication, and I'm going to be watching this support at 62.80, no lower than 6100. A break below that could be a very bearish indication. Coming out and looking at EOS, guys. continue here. EOS had a very similar pattern to Bitcoin. I told you guys that as it was consolidating up here that it was getting tighter and tighter, squeezed tighter and tighter, moving averages were getting squeezed, and I said that on my last update I said to expect a larger move. Sure enough, we saw that larger move, and very similar to Bitcoin, we extended this ascending support line out from the prior wedge. I told you if price did break below, we're going to come back and test the prior low of this structure. That's exactly what happened. Price came back down. I don't know if you can see it on your screens, but the wick was sitting right back down here at about $4.65, which was almost that perfect prior low here. Had almost a perfect double bottom, not quite. This one came down a little bit lower at about $4.61. This is at about $4.64, but still pretty close to a double bottom. Price ended up bouncing perfectly. We're again showing that this support zone between $4.73, $4.67 is a very, very relevant support, very strong support. Price did break up, and again, very similar to Bitcoin, what was resistance, this ascending resistance line, or excuse me, what was support, by this ascending support line is now acting as a resistance line. Price came up, found resistance right there at that line. I do think if it breaks above that line, we could quickly come back up into this prior order block here, right here, between 520, 535, and if price does break above that, we're going to be, all eyes are going to be sitting on $5.57. That is the ceiling. If price can break above 557, guys, I think it'll there's a very good chance it's going to quickly rise up to at least this order block here between 581 and 596, and then all eyes are going to be watching this ascending support line here that's been in place for quite some time. A break above that, guys, a break above this ascending support in conjunction with breaking above this $5.96 range, I think will be a very quick rise up to at least 650, in my opinion, at least 650, this order block right here. Excuse me. I'm going to go ahead and bring it over to Ethereum. Ethereum has been extremely interesting, guys. I think last time, it's been a while since I've updated you on Ethereum, I think like a week and a half. But last time, price was sitting right up in, I think price was sitting right up here. I told you the demand zone was sitting at between 196 and 178. Price did break down into that demand. Yeah, it was sitting right up in here on our last update. So it's been a while. It's been a couple weeks. So yeah, price did break down into that demand zone. I took a buy. I laddered in between 180 and 178, which I told you guys in the last update that's what I was going to do. I put my stop loss down here at 154. Now price did wick below here. Fortunately, it didn't trigger my stop loss, and bulls immediately pushed it back up. We had a very strong reversal candle here. Price came back up. I sold it at 215 up in this order block here, moved sideways, broke back down. Now I didn't have the guts to buy down here, even though I knew this looked like this retesting of this prior support looked very, very strong. Price did break into this zone, guys. I did not buy there. I wish I would have. Price would have been a very nice scalp trade, but anyway, price did break. Yeah, excuse me, guys. Sorry, got something in my throat there. Price did break above this descending, or excuse me, this support zone here between 196, 178. Price hit this, immediately pushed right back up. That's a very bullish sign that this is still acting as a strong support. And I do believe there's a high probability that, that EOS is going to follow, or excuse me, not EOS, Ethereum. Ethereum is going to follow Bitcoin at this point, and more than likely consolidate, move sideways, and then just follow Bitcoin. If Bitcoin falls, EOS is going to fall, and vice versa. If Bitcoin rises, EOS is going to rise. I say that because if I look at Ethereum long positions, longs are sitting at almost, sitting at all-time highs. If I look at short positions, shorts are sitting at all-time highs. So we have pretty much a stalemate between long and shorts on Ethereum. So that tells me that more than likely, guys, we're going to get just more consolidation, and it's going to move the direction of Bitcoin, in my opinion. Now, if price does break above this $2.26 support range, and certainly if it breaks above this descending support line here, this larger descending support line here, I would expect a very quick rise up to at least 250. That's not a very strong resistance, though. More than likely, price is going to end up coming into this order block right here that sits somewhere between 270 and about 290, somewhere thereabouts, guys. I think there's a very good probability if we break above 226 that price is going to come up into this order block up here. We'll call it split the difference and call it about 280, somewhere thereabouts. That's going to be a very strong resistance. It's a very strong supply zone up there, guys. But I do think if it breaks above these zones, that's exactly where price is going to go if that does happen. Now, looking to the downside, guys, if we do break below this 178 decisively, if we do have a daily candle that closes below 178, at that point we're going to be watching this 159 to 155 zone here to act as support. If that breaks down, guys, I think it could be a very quick fall, possibly down as low as $91. But again, we're nowhere near there yet. In the meantime, I do expect a lot of consolidation until we get some kind of market moving news, or until Bitcoin breaks in one direction or another. Looking at XRP, XRP is It did break out on strong fundamental news from Saudi Arabia. Something about I don't even remember what it was, guys. I just kind of I'm more of a chart guy than a fundamental trader. But there was some positive news out of Saudi Arabia. Something about them adopting the XRP or something like that, or using it more often, or testing it or something. I don't remember what it is. I'll have to look it up. But if we zoom out here and we look at the bigger picture, I showed you on my last XRP update, which admittedly was a few weeks ago, that we were operating within this massive descending wedge here. And I told you that there was a chance that price could break back down, but I said when price does break above this wedge, it's going to break up decisively. Now again, if we zoom back in here, that's exactly what happened. Price did finally, after all this time, break above this wedge, and it broke above decisively, came into this order block here that sits between about 33 cents and 35 cents. Found resistance there, came right back, got pushed right back down, and is now kind of sitting into this the bottom of that order block right here, just kind of hanging on. Now, I would expect, if I were you, I would not be buying XRP at this time. It would be a very high risk play. Excuse me, what I want to see to buy XRP is to price to come into this order block here and just start to consolidate, move sideways, up and down, moving sideways in this zone, not just kind of sitting at the bottom here, but up well into this this order block, moving sideways. And at that point, I might consider in dollar cost averaging into a position, because if price does break above this here, certainly have to take out this prior high. But the real resistance is sitting right here at about 35.8 cents. If price does break above 35.8 cents, there's hardly any resistance between that, we'll call it 36 cents. There's hardly any resistance between 36 cents and 44 cents, which is an extremely good risk to reward if it does start consolidating in this zone. So if we do see that consolidation, we do get some market structure, we do get some structure that forms. At that point, I might enter in, start dollar cost averaging into a position, and I'll be targeting this order block right here, sitting at about 43 to 44 cents, somewhere thereabouts, where I do expect that to act as a very, very strong resistance if that does happen. To the downside, guys, you're going to be watching a possible break back down to retest this. Let me go back to the 4 hour because it's a little, you can see a little bit better, to retest the top of this order block here, which sits at somewhere around 29 cents. Let me get rid of this so you can see a little better. Yeah, somewhere around 29 cents, 29.3 cents. I think there's a very good chance that price does end up retracing there. Now, if it does retrace, that might be a place to enter into a small position off on XRP and targeting this zone up here again, targeting about 32, 33 cents. So if it does drop down to about 29 cents, picking it up, targeting 32, 33 cents, that'd be a good risk to reward in my opinion. Doesn't mean that's going to happen. Just means this would be very interesting to see how XRP ends up playing out here. Now, again, if it starts consolidating, moving sideways, it'd be very bullish. If we get a strong breakdown at that point, I want to see how it reacts at that once it gets back into this order block here. If it breaks back down, retest, and a strong bounce right back up, that's going to be a very bullish indication in my opinion. So we'll have to wait and see how that ends up playing out. But right now, guys, I don't see any good trade on XRP at all. At the moment, actually possibly even shorting it, targeting possibly this zone down here at about 29 to 30 cents. Might not be a bad play, small play there, guys, but in my opinion, I would just be hands off XRP right now and waiting to see where price goes and letting price come to me, letting the trade set up. I don't see a really good trade setup right now for XRP at all. So I'm gonna go ahead and wrap it there, guys. If you have any comments, questions, suggestions, please let me know in the comment section below. As always, I would appreciate upvote, re-steam, or a like, depending on where you're viewing this. Till next time, guys, please trade safe, take care of yourselves. This is Working, signing out.